Good.
This regular meeting. Five. We'll start with the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance. Public. Here.
Alderman McGee. Alderman Carr. Alderman Roll.
Here.
Alderman Johnson. Alderman Montoya. Alderman Ruthenberg.
Here.
Three present, and today. So I put that.
Right. Public comments, as a reminder, public comment periods, not time for dialogue, the purpose of public comment periods, for the mayor and aldermen of the city, to receive input from the community. It is in fact a one-way communication to the city council, the city's administration, and department heads are available for discussion. Is there any public comments? Is there any public comments? If not, moving on to presentation by Burke Engineering. You're recording this, right? Because I know the Alderman probably want to watch this.
Thank you, Mayor. That's very Commissioner Burke Engineering. Here to provide an update to the council. I'll wish I put together the progress and plans we have in place. So I'm just kind of going to step through the different phases. So the first one I'd like to talk about is the street program. The 2025 road program will be kicking off just like it does annually every year. It's a citywide program. This year we have 12 streets on the docket. Annual expenditure of about 1 to 2 million, depending on how things come in. This will be put out. So we're in the design phase right now. We're collecting the data from the streets, doing the borings. We're anticipating spring construction at the beginning. And, we'll also be applying for the two Cook County programs to invest in Cook and the CDBG grants. So those are both additional ways that are included in the program. So, and speaking of CDBG, we have a Irving Avenue from 119th is on the CDBG grant from last year. So it's a complete reconstruction of that roadway. Project, and that will also be put out to bid in conjunction with the annual 2025 road program. So that is the road program. We also kicking off this year the 2025 road maintenance program, which I know is a topic of discussion here. So this is the project to preserve the roads that we've been paving the last several years. Yeah, I want to record it. Hello.
There it goes.
Sorry, just be a little closer. So the 2025 road maintenance program has also put out the bid last fall. So we have two contractors on board for that. And I mentioned that's to preserve and protect the newly paved roads. We'll have two different applications that are going on. One is the Reclamite. It's a pavement rejuvenator. So it preserves the new pavements. That's only for the newly paved roads, so 3 years or younger. And then we have the traditional crack sealing, which will be for streets that are basically 4 to 6 years old. So that'll also roll out in the spring. Both contractors are on board once we get the contracts set up. So any questions about the road program or the road maintenance program? Yes.
Do you know what 12 streets you were planning on doing, and then also what streets you were thinking about with the pavement rejuvenator? You have those?
I do. Would you like me to list them, or would you like the 12 is easy, the other ones are about 60 streets.
About what?
60 streets.
60?
60-ish. So, yeah, there's a little over 30 with the rejuvenator and then a little under 30 with the accident. So the 12 that we have listed for the road program currently are Wood Street, Irving, York, and if you need north and south or east west, let me know. 4 would be Francisco, 5 London Avenue, 6 Orchard, 7 Grunwald, 8 121st Street, That's on the west side of town from Ann over to Elm. 920th Street, 1020th Place, Irving, and Gregory. And those are the east side.
Thank you.
Welcome. We get just a list of the applicants, both the parameters of the street buildings.
We can check them out.
I mean, is that the next going?
We did it in the fall.
Yeah, okay, so
It just, we were still late.
that's fine, I get it. I mean,
Yes, Alderman.
Jeff, thanks for being here. Yeah, for giving the report. With regard to the resume, are there any sort of preconditions of preparedness that residents have to be mindful of? You know, is there a certain amount of time that cars can be on the road, or does vegetation have to be protected or anything like that?
Yes, for a certain amount of time they can be on the road, so we'll roll out those different parameters. So it's a sealant that goes down and then gets treated on top, but yeah, absolutely, yes. So we'll produce some educational materials.
Yeah, so it'll be scheduled though, right? So
Absolutely.
okay, awesome, thank you.
And the same thing with the actually.
I'll probably have a question one for the city administration. $2 million for streets, the reclamate and the crack ceiling and the alleys. We have a kind of total budget picture of where we are with that, and are we comfortable with it?
So, with the work on the appropriation, we spent 6 hours yesterday going line by line. The maintenance is very doable because all of those streets will be under $1 million. The alleys we already did and approved, and so that is already budgeted. We're gonna see what the streets come back and if we trim the fat, we already talked about possibly.
Thank you.
Yeah, the road maintenance program is under 250.
Yes, well under, it's $100,000. Something. Yes, it gets another 5-10 years out of this one.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So the next set of updates that I have is just regarding the streetscape projects. I'm sure you guys been down Old Western. So Old Western Avenue itself is probably 90-95% complete. There's still some punch list items related to signage, the damage that we've had along Western Avenue there with the different cart vehicles. The Broadway light installation was delayed due to IDOT permitting. That's underway right now. So once those items are taken care of, that essentially will be complete. Similarly for phase 1.5, which is the Grove, James, New York portions of and Old Western North of the canal, that's 90-95% complete. Also with similar punch list items in terms of the streets, the signage. York Park itself, from the Metro Park there, pending ownership transfer, the city will look to do some improvements there, and those will be like in line with the same sort of streetscape design of Old Western Avenue. It's currently working on that design, so we'll coordinate with them to make sure that happens. The second phase, hold on.
Just missed the reclamate.
You probably heard me.
Basically, we're set to go with the contractors, good to go.
Correct. And we can circle back around if you or after. Western Avenue itself, phase 2, as it's so called, from 119th to 127th. We've approved all the council has approved all the IDOT agreements. Those have been sent to IDOT. That, as you may recall, is ITEP funded, at least a portion of it. We did submit an expedited engineering request to try to speed it up as much as possible. This is a state project, so we can only do so much there, but we're certainly going to try. The estimated construction beginning for that phase, 19th to 127th, is 2027. If you have to stress that's variable. The phase 3, so that's the next phase from 127th to Grove. That's STP and Invest in Cook funded. Again, all those agreements have been submitted to IDOT for approval. And we've also submitted that expedited engineering request to them, and that is an estimated construction start of 2028. So, again, all subject to IDOT. That kind of includes the street. Want to pop back up? So we have the road maintenance program, which is preserve and protect the roads. Reclamate is for the streets 3 years and younger. The other, actually, we have about 60 streets in total. About $250,000, and we'll start this spring. Contractors right. Let's flip those for So the next discussion item that I have is the 2025 alley program, which has already been bid out. They started construction last fall. This essentially will complete the majority of the alleys throughout the entire city. The contractor is set to kick off again in April of 2025.
All the remaining.
Correct. That we're aware of.
There's always one or two that pop up.
Yes, we missed it or, yeah, but we'll get those two.
Some that aren't even real alleys, they're fall.
Yeah, I think, so right now we have 81 locations listed this year's programs. In addition to those, we do have 3 green alleys that will be constructed in partnership with Cook County and the Green Pit Partners. Those locations are 123rd Street and Grunwald, Artesian, New to Vermont, and Chicago Street, Point Avenue, from Vermont to Grove. Those are in design. They collected the survey recently, but those would look to be the same sort of construction timeline as the other spring bid, and spring summer construction. We are also submitting for another round of NWRD green alleys. Those would be essentially 1 block or 1/2 block west of Western, Ida York, York to New, and New Vermont. And then those will be constructed in 2026, if approved or awarded. That kind of closes out the alley. Yes, sir.
Just a question on those alleys, the upcoming the alleys, Western, are those alleys, something we should put in speed bumps?
I've already sent you the one on Western for 3
Because
miles.
I think it's gonna become a long highway, and not Walnut, it's a really nice road.
Walnut, Walnut.
The short answer is,
Maybe.
we would need to look at that, yes.
Well, I appreciate it if you would.
Yeah, yes, just with the design of the green infrastructure portion.
No, it's not green alley. Let's talk about the regular alley.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, you were saying we're gonna look for some more green alleys west of Western, is that correct?
So we have 3 locations selected west of Western,
For
2026.
right.
Yes, sorry, yes, you did for me. So it's a additional,
Regular blacktop alley.
then absolutely 100%.
Oh, okay, that's great. Thanks.
Sorry, 2 different opportunities. Got it confused, yeah.
Regular.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, the next section that I just have is moving on to utilities. So the water system, as you guys may have heard many times here, in the city is a little aged, and we have some encouragement from our friends at the IEPA regarding specific priority improvements that need to be made. The elevated water towers, so those are the 2 at Highland and Gordon. We have specific requirements regarding inspections, maintenance, repairs, and painting that need to occur fairly quickly, so we're looking to get those underway. The other associated improvement, those are cathodic protection, which is looks to maintain the metal inside the inside of the tanks.
Set that additional metal similar to your hot water.
Yeah, exactly. Use electronic protected. So
Which I believe Mike will talk about if he's comfortable later, if it doesn't exist.
yes, I think when we get those inspected, we'll probably find lots of surprises, but that's, yeah, Mike can talk to that, absolutely. The other 2 ground reservoirs, the one in Highland and the small one at Vincennes, also need to be inspected and repairs to be applied. We have several meter replacements of the bulb and the pump house that need to take place. And then facility hardening kind of throughout the system in terms of security and reliability. All of those numbers totaling about $8 to $10 million approximately. We are looking to continue the meter replacement program. The commercial routes were completed over the last year, about 95%. There's still some outliers, but that for the most part is complete. So we still have the 4 remaining residential routes. And we would look to do some this year. Each route is about $1 million to $1.2 million. So basically $4 to $45 million remaining for those 4 residential routes. Questions about the synopsis there, but quick overview. So the big guy in the room is the lead service line replacement program. So this is sort of a continuation of the information that we provided before to you guys. We did receive 2 years ago a grant to perform the inventory of the lead services in the community, and essentially confirm what we already know, which is the majority of the services provided in the city are all lead. So we did apply for IEPA funding to start that process. We have essentially received it. We received the preliminary environmental impact, which there will be a public hearing for next week. It is a forgivable, low-interest loan. So right now we're approved in the upwards of $5 million. We do not know the amount that will be forgiven, but we do know that we are eligible. That number will be released in June and July this year. And then once we know that number, well, between now and when we know that number, we'll prepare the bids, and then we will do the amount of work that we're able to do under the forgiveness amount. Last year, the number was $3.027 million of forgiveness per eligible community. So I think we might be something near that. Yes.
So what's the state's process for getting the loan, and you explain the benefits?
So we already completed all the process, which basically you prepare so you have to complete the inventory, which we already did. You have to prepare a plan and submit it that shows, A, how your water system works, B, if you're able to repay the loan, and then, C, if you're eligible for the loan, which we are. We received the preliminary impact, which I mentioned, and that essentially is them saying you are eligible for all the requirements of the loan. We'll have the public hearing. If there's no comments received in the 10-day public comment following it, then we would be able to move forward with the design and then the bidding. As far as the benefits, it's free money from the state of Illinois to replace lead service lines. They think that there are many benefits, but it basically allows us to work for free to the city.
For residential?
I think for any, but right now we're planning on all residential, yes.
States has a mandate that we have to do this, correct?
Correct. And in a certain amount of time.
What's a certain amount of time?
It keeps changing. It was, I think we had 30 years initially, and then it was reduced to 10, and then I think now it's back to 20.
The clock started years ago.
Yes, correct.
We'll never get it done by
That's a little bit later in the presentation, but the answer is no. We have 5,600-ish services, and they're depending on who you ask or how the bids come back, they're 10,000 or 17,000. So you're looking at a range from 50 million to 95 million, approximately. So no.
one bid with the city.
If the bids come back favorable.
Overall.
Are you able to, I guess, speak to, I guess, in just trying to understand the scope of this problem beyond just the city, right? As I understand it, it's a very large national problem. With regard to how you target specific areas for replacement, right? And I think this maybe relates to cost in that if you can say this will be this amount of work in a very particular area, in a very particular time, usually vendors, they favor that because they know they're not getting a certain amount of it, right? But I'm just curious, how do you assess specifically which properties do need replacement? In other words, I know we have the sort of voluntary survey is submitted, right? And those are other criteria, but again, just thinking broadly, national level, how do you begin to assess which homes would need this and which would, or is it, there's no split?
A couple different questions or a couple of answers.
Yeah, sorry.
No.
It's more like curiosity, so I'm not like, you're not on the spot. I'm just, again, trying to wrap my mind around the scope of this.
Does it go by the oldest pipes?
It does not. It does
Why,
not.
you want to join up? You know some of this data.
Yeah, and Mike,
Yeah,
yeah,
let me-
more than welcome. This,
So
there are critical places that have to be replaced first.
Correct.
So.
Yeah,
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 sorry, you're saying.
okay, so Mostly it would be schools, hospitals,
Daycares.
daycares and stuff like that, okay? But we don't have a choice, right? Anything that's got lead, according to what the EPA says, it's gotta be taken out. Okay, it can't even be left in the ground. So the cost is not only just doing the actual install, it's actually removing the stuff out of the earth also to disposing of that property, right?
But how do you tell the state between a school that it needs this versus one that doesn't?
No, there's no, if anybody, if it's identified that there's lead, then by EPA mandate, it's gotta be removed.
And that's what I
And
guess,
there's no,
that identification is what I'm asking about, is how do you know for sure? Like, do you require them to self-report like the survey?
oh, no, it's, we know. So the way the EPA says it is, if you don't know what that is, if it's classified as unknown, it's
It's lead.
considered lead.
Okay,
There's no wiggle room on that.
okay,
So this is what we have to do. And that's where, Travis made a good point of this. Each administration has changed the goal line on this. So we originally had 40 years, then 30 years, now it's down to 10 years. The previous administration, we don't know what's gonna happen. And with this current administration, we're eligible right now. It makes sense for us, and that's why I think the timeliness of everything is that we go ahead and get this before it changes again and they say miraculously lead's okay. Right? So,
Or even to the point, right now, the loans are planned to be forgiven, but that doesn't mean that that's gonna continue in perpetuity.
so. This, right now, the way the EPA works, it's not an option. This is, you are going to do this. So,
and so with residences, I guess, if you aren't aware, right, if you don't have hard data that it is a lead service line, do we just err on the side of caution?
correct,
We
that's
really-
required. We're required by law to do that.
So we really do stretches of blocks at a time, not.
Correct, we would not,
Skip to-
no, we would not do that.
Okay.
The way this is, if that's the question, yes, we would come in and it makes sense to do it block by block.
Okay, and I guess, and I'm just thinking of other regions, right, that are trying to maybe begin to assess the scope of their own efforts. You know, is the age of buildings along the block reasonable criteria to say this block is likely to need replacement, just, you know, out of an abundance of caution, say every house is built before 1950.
Correct.
What was that?
Yes.
It's just, I guess, I'm just, again, wondering, how do you say this is a block that needs it versus this is one that, unless, how did you get here, but just make you want it, how do cities begin to tackle?
I have an answer for you. I'll be careful how I answer it. I'm sure Mike is gonna scream me if I answer it too bluntly. Everything in the city is 100 years old and more.
Yeah.
Everything's around the same age. Everything was pretty much put in around the same time. Obviously, the most cost-effective way is to look at what mains constantly break or not up to pressure with the fire department. You prioritize because you're replacing the mains along with the lead lines. So, and he does know which ones are constantly breaking. Am I answering?
And that's most cost effective to do that,
Sure.
for sure, but normally it's, I can't remember the exact number, it's in the 80s, the early 80s is when they switched over. So anything that would be put in after that would not have lead,
Okay.
okay?
And we don't have a lot.
And we don't have a lot of that.
Chicago
So-
then generally does, right?
Correct,
So it's
this
enormous-
region, correct,
enormous.
correct.
Right.
But you're right, it's a national issue, and there should, and that's what we're worried about, I guess, with the national, how that's gonna work out.
And in terms of,
Understand.
you know, workers to do the work, supplies to fix it, I mean, it's all.
Materials.
Especially makes all of it harder, yeah.
Correct.
Completely understand.
Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Just as kind of a practical matter, is it generally true or not true that the sewer line is in proximity to the water line, or are they usually?
So-
I'm wondering, could you replace your,
Well, so here, we're like, the mayor said, our community is very old, so those rules and regulations have changed. So now, the requirement for the sanitary line, it's a minimum of 10 feet away from the water line, okay? That's not something that we would have the ability to necessarily do because of our community and, you know, how we are with growth and the location, how congested everybody is. So we would be all right to go ahead and do this, okay? But our community is always below, right? The water's above and the sanitary is below, right? So that way it's not opposite, right? Because you don't want any, contamination. Those are-
And
So-
treasurer, and then, Dave Treasurer.
What would this entail? So is it from the, like, the from the homeowner's, meter
Right,
to
inside,
the,
to the main,
to the,
which is in the street. And that depending on what street you live on, it could be in front of your house, it could be in the parkway, it could be in the roadway, it could be across the street. Usually a good indicator is whatever side the fire hydrant's on, that's usually the side that the main's on. So costs vary, right? So, each individual household would be, but that's what, you guys, and this is all from last year. I know it's probably been a while, everybody, we talked about lead service line and the inventory and all this stuff. So this is just a continuation of that. This is not something that's new. This process was started last year.
that's commercial though, right? Like,
No,
That
that's
was
for
for
the,
the- that was
for
for
the
the
letters. For the, that was for the meters, but I'm talking about, the lead service line, okay? So all this was all data that we started last year, and this is the progression of it. The application was put in last year. We're finally getting all this stuff sent back to us because they work at a snail's pace. Okay, so we're just revisiting what we had started to do. And this is now our opportunity to move forward with this. We just don't want this to get snatched away. That's what it comes down to.
So I was just over in Paul Revere.
They're working, yeah,
So, you know, the city's right now working on the water line, you know, it's an issue and, you know, it's something that has to get fixed and, you know, that these lead lines are old.
Right.
And they have to be repaired, right? I believe the mechanics will get. Or like that.
absolutely, Alderman McGee. Part of this too is what, EPA requirements, it's, and the city attorney can attest to this. It's not may, it's shall, right? You shall do this. It means you have to do this, right? When we do repairs in the winter, we have 120 days to replace the lead. In the summer, we have 30 days if we discover to do a repair. So, I mean, this is what we have to do.
and how much does it, will it cost the residents? Will the residents have to pay for anything along the sides?
Well, right now, that the goal is that they don't.
Right.
If we do this, we're hoping that they don't.
And it would save
On
them,
average, right now, depending on the length, it's anywhere from approximately $12,000 to $15,000 per resident to do an installation, to do the removal and the install.
That's what the grant.
What's that?
That's what the grant.
And that's what the grant, the loan, the forgivable loan would cover, so. Yes,
So obviously I wasn't a part of most of these conversations, so I'm just listening and learning. But just a quick question, are all the mains led to, so like all the main,
the mains aren't led, but the connections that were made to the mains are. So, that was the most economical and probably the most common pipe that was used at the time. You know, it's, as long as it's not disturbed, it's fine. And the city of Chicago, actually puts, additive in the water to help keep the lead, suspended and not, leaching into the water. So it is a safe means to do that. It's once things start getting moved and when you have a break or something like that, that's when the lead can actually become an issue.
And if there's any issues with the main, it's way more cost effective to do it all at the same time
right?
than replace all the services and then come back at some point and do this.
so it's safe to drink the water.
Absolutely. Safe, 100%. It's 100% safe to drink the water, right? Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, I'm sure we can continue these conversations, not vote on anything tonight, but.
Right.
It's very heavy lift. And I know I've been briefed multiple times over last year and this year that, and some of you that have been around. The last time the city got, or talked about doing this, it wasn't even a forgivable loan, it was just a loan with interest, and it was only like 100 houses. This is roughly 1,000 to 1,100 houses, depending on the bids.
It's how the bids come back.
The bids. And ideally, Well, I already told the engineer, it would make sense to us sitting in the room here, do the ones that break the most first. We already know the majority of the cities pre-1980, so I don't have to say certain things. And streets that haven't been done yet, because we're tearing out the beautiful streets we did. So there's criteria and algorithm that has to be made to figure out the best use for this grant. Ideally, cost savings, do it all on April first, work around the map, whatever we do. Hopefully these grants continue. This is just a 2-year program, it's for 1,000. So as long as we show that we're doing something, I think we should be in good shape. Again, it goes back to everything else we discussed, a lot of deferred. Excellent.
Yeah, so we will have the public hearing at the next city council meeting, so. More come there.
Any other questions right now for this part of the topic? I know you always talk.
Yeah, I got a few items, sure. Yep. So the next thing I have on my list to continue with utilities is the city's combined sewer system. So the last number of years, we have completed basically the first, evaluation, cleaning and televising of the city's combined sewer system. So that's, and we do use that data, so it's in conjunction with the road program. So every street that we're going to be repaving or redoing, we analyze the sewers underneath to see if they need to be replaced or repaired, and those programs will in conjunction with each other. So it'll be the same streets that I mentioned earlier that we did repairs to. Along with that, we do have the flooding issue over on Washington Street along Longwood. You guys have heard discussions about this for many years also. We do have developed a preferred alternative to that, and this would be a solution to the flooding problem. There'd not be another Band-Aid to fix it. And we've already has approximately $7 million in funding toward this project. They're going to partner with us, and we have applied for another $32 million from FEMA and IEMA. We have heard some feedback from them, it seems positive, but until we get that funding in place, that project is project's on hold, but we will have that place to proceed with that. So,
Projects on hold, did you say?
we're just waiting to hear back on funding. Yep. The last utility item I have here is just that this year the IDOT roadways were completed in terms of converting those to LEDs. So that goes in conjunction with a lot of city parking lots and a lot of city residential areas. So the majority of the city has also updated to LED lighting. So great for the city, and a lot of those come with content reimbursements. So. And then the last item that I have here on my list is the long-term, and I use that loosely because it's not really long-term, it's more like a 5 to 10 year plan in terms of infrastructure improvements. As Mayor mentioned, we do have a number of water mains that are in need of improvement and or replacement. So we've identified 6 priority projects, and that's based on age, number of breaks, and the pressure throughout the system in those areas of the city. And those basically would be upgrades to different sizes or replacing a kind. And those improvements total about $12 million just for those 6 priority water main replacements. And then I think I already went over this quickly when Alderman McGee asked was just the remaining number of the lead service lines. We've got $3 million on approved this year and about the same for next year. But that's only 1,000 or so of the 5,600. So we would have an additional 60 to $75 million lead service lines. So. Take questions.
I'm gonna piggyback on the city side now. So the 2 water tanks you mentioned, which we have to do or show progress of doing before April of this year. This 20-year is usually the turnaround to tank restore tanks. Ours are going on 30 to 40 years since they've been touched.
Correct.
We talked to the former superintendent of water from the 90s. The Thornton Tower was done in, let's say, the 90s. Kitty Corral was done in the early 2000s. Both need substantial work, both can be painted and restored. And there's a water bond that was taken out back then to do. It's paid off now as this year. So we're gonna have to have a conversation to do something similar to do those 2 tanks and these water mains. That's something we need to start talking about soon. We have to show some kind of progress with these water tanks by April.
Yeah, exactly. 20 years is exactly.
And our yearly payment, if you look at the appropriation, we've been paying, I don't know if offhand, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars this loan 30 years ago, and it's paid off. So we do the same thing again, to do this major work all the time and show the EPA, even if it's not done by April, that we're starting the process. That's how we get, and I should say get out of it, we give some extensions to our violations.
I thought that we did, Kitty Corral, 2011,
2000.
2001.
Right now,
Yeah, 24 years.
yes. 20 years.
Yeah, 20 years.
And that's also the same tower that has a lot of issues inside with sacrificial metal.
Yes, yes, the plan is to get those inspected and determine the extent of that, those repairs, so.
Back to our dates.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I think we settled it, because you're right, we're still paying for it. That's the payments we're making now, is paying for the water towers when they were done, so. That's what I think.
I just remember when I was first elected, there was a lot of discussion. Kitty Corral one time.
That includes the ground tank too, I think it's 2 million to the air, 1 million to the ground or something. So piggyback on that, we have to have a conversation very soon, which we already at least mentioned to legal. We have not taken out, and it's something we should all be proud of, we haven't taken any loans or any debt since we've taken over, and the city hasn't taken any debt in many years. We're completely paid off this year of any debt outside pensions, which even that, we're not doing that bad. So it's something to be proud of for a town in the south suburbs not to have any debt this year. Something extremely, it's a good accomplishment. So those are conversations that we started talking about 4 years ago, and God, thanks God, we didn't have to do anything at the time. We were able to pay as we go. But pay as you go mentality is what put the city in this place 4 years ago. So there's some decision to make very soon, possibly doing some debt to get some of these major things started. Perhaps anything else?
No, good, you guys good?
Mike, not follow up anything? Not? Thank you, Travis.
You bet.
Can you stick around just in case there's any questions? All right, moving on, we have a couple things that came out of planning and zoning. Ordinance of the city of Blue Island, County, Illinois, to allow a daycare at 2418 Vermont Street.
Past zoning, they recommended that we approve the special use. I know the administration has significant concerns regarding whether or not this is an appropriate use for the property, including issues with parking, traffic, etc. So included in your packet today is the findings of fact from the zoning board. In addition to the new, they provided a new map for their parking. So that's also included there.
I
Discuss the concerns that the administration has.
have some concerns, and I was gonna let the Alderman, and this is the committee meeting, just remind you, we're not voting anything tonight, but I do have some concerns with this location being daycare, but Alderman, with your issue.
Yeah, there's several things that I wondered about, probably you too. Pick up a drop off, I just wanted to, confirm that the pickup, that the entrance at the rear of the building will be the one.
Yeah, they're showing entrance at the rear and exit on Vermont with a right turn only, no left.
No,
turn.
I'm talking actually that when the kids get out of the car or into the car.
Mm.
I'm hoping that they don't do it in front of them, I'm not.
Well, they're showing it that. front
There- there is a
entrance where
door
the
at
children
the
are going in.
I really don't care for that.
What's the address again? I'm sorry.
It's
It's
it's right.
It's the old Family Dollar.
The dollar store.
Okay.
Legally, I have some concerns with that drop off being in front too, especially with this being an IDOT road, considering what
And,
issues we have.
I was curious also about the timing, how many, what's the volume of vehicles gonna be and when are they gonna show up? Like, does it all happen at once, like 8 AM and 3 PM, or is it staged?
They explained peak periods to the zoning board would be 6 to 9 AM and 3 to 6 PM. Which is right during rush hour, as we know.
Yeah, and, it does seem like it's possible that there will be a backup into the parking lot behind Three Sisters and maybe out to you, so, concern for sure.
I think we were in a lot of accidents, so we talked about Vermont and Greenwood there in the corner outside my office. There's accidents at least once a month, right?
Irish farm. And there's nothing in here about how many.
You
what's the
said it's right
traffic
outside my
volume.
office, there's accidents all the time.
So I do have concerns about it.
I thought of something, and I'm not sure if it's what the council about, getting, if they get a letter from IDOT signing off on the plan, that could push some liability if something happens off of us, I'd be in favor of making that a requirement.
That'd be
I
fine.
don't know if they can,
Just a thought.
considering the IGA that's in place right now. Just, yes, but having that as a requirement, make it difficult.
I would really like to know the volumes that we're talking about, how many cars at a given time. You know, that's gonna make a big difference. And I really, really don't like the idea of kids exiting the car 3 feet from the last street.
Right.
That sounds not good.
So if there's additional information you need, I'm sure Ryan Morton can get it to you, at least what they were provided with. And then,
They give the applicants.
the ordinance will be placed on the next agenda, but if you don't have enough information, obviously you guys can vote to table or vote to require more.
It might be good for the applicants.
Yeah.
Could the business be involved at all just to have their clients pull into the parking lot when they drop children off? I mean, is there any, do we have any capacity to ask them? I mean, it's probably not enforceable, but. I mean, they'll have that.
We can
capacity.
put whatever, restrictions or limitations we would want into the special use. The zoning board already put their own in. We can add to that if we wanted to.
There's no parking there, right? Like you're not technically allowed.
Not a lot front to front.
I mean, even for a drop off or.
No,
Okay, so I mean,
It's not numbered.
maybe it sort of reminds the business of that it's not legal to stop there to drop the job.
Does it say how many kids?
I'd hate to discourage.
Yeah, I don't want to discourage them. I know, I don't object to this on principle. I'm just concerned about the
Absolutely,
practicality.
no doubt, for sure, and I just wondering what.
Yeah.
How big is this area, or enforce it.
I don't know if you heard me, does it say how many kids?
Not in the findings of fact,
How
I
many
don't
people will
know.
be dropping off? It makes a difference if it's 10 or.
Yeah, I did that.
Yeah, see, actually, no, right, it's a big difference. Yeah.
It could be in the application or it could be in the testimony that they provided to the zoning board, but I don't have that information right now. That's something that Ryan Morton might have.
All right, like I said, it's, think of anything, you can add requirements like we've done with other uses before. I like my idea about a letter from IDOT. Think about this before the next meeting. We have to put on the agenda based on our zoning rules. But again, like the attorney said, it doesn't have to be voted on.
Yeah.
So if you don't know now, we can bring it up at the 25th and any other additional concerns. I agree. When I heard about this, I was very hesitant because of the high traffic counts, because of situations that happened by high school I was concerned. And the size of the building, when you take that footprint, it's larger than the one that we have on 207 right now. It is offset off the street. So there's be a lot more kids, I think, based on just the size of the building. But I do have it. I think these are all legitimate concerns. So let's stew on this and continue the conversation.
And maybe what I'll do proactively, instead of you guys reaching out to Ryan, I'll just grab their application materials from Ryan and send them out to you guys, just don't, obviously don't respond.
It's a daycare, right, not a school, so pick up and drop off would be staggered somewhat.
Definitely, they're saying their peak times are
Sure.
rush hour times, but
Yeah.
they had also requested to be open for 24 hours. And the PZBA said no to that, but I don't know that they put a certain restriction on what hours.
Next, we have another special use for truck and repair shop. What's the address?
001 West 119th Street.
All right, any questions or concerns? Now, this is operating as what? It's not division of the rank. It's the old, landscape company? It is, it's the old landscape, it's the old, landscape company. I think right now it's, CDL
CDL.
school. So it did pass PZBA. It did have all these restrictions here on page 2. Repair work shall be limited to trucks and trailers. Property will not be used for storage or parking of vehicles, trailers, materials, etc. Parts of the property being used for temporary parking for trailers should be paved. All vehicles, trailers should be parked, stored in designated parking spaces. Vehicles may not be stored outdoors in concrete line for 14 days, longer than 7 days once repairs are complete. No vehicles shall be repaired outdoors, and all storage materials, auto parts, supplies, and equipment shall be within an enclosed structure. No sales of vehicles shall apply with fence construction requirements, and removes existing tractor trailers and other vehicles and materials from the property. Was there any other questions or concerns or things you want to add on this? All right, this will be moved on to the next meeting. And again, same as before, if you think of anything, we can add it on the 20th. Alderman Roll.
Yeah, I just do want to point out that I see now that the special use for the daycare does forbid Vermont Street being used for drop off, pickup, or employee parking. So that's good.
So I saw that open roll, and I had my kids at a place in Chicago Ridge for a year or so, I went to 218, and it was on Southwest Highway. You're not supposed to park on Southwest Highway, so they pull into the parking lots and drop off the kids, but every time it's my kids, was cars with blinkers in front of Southwest Highway. And I just know that was in my head when I was reading about this. I can see it happening. Yeah. All right, next discussion regarding Brownstown communication proposal that's approved in the packet. Administration.
Good evening. So there's a proposal in your packet from Brownstown Communication. We all know Kevin and Sarah Brown, so I don't think that needs a ton of introduction. But we're going into, obviously, heading into a new term that's going to start in April. We have a new website that Kevin and Sarah have actually been involved along with Alderman Roll and myself in the early stages of the development of that, transferring all of our existing very antiquated website into a new format, which you've seen the initial format. We're looking at an April launch date for that. So with that and with the other, public relations communications needs that we have, I asked Kevin and Sarah to kind of list out a proposal for what the relationship with the city might look like moving forward. So again, we do have an existing communications contract with them. This would replace that. You can work through the scope of work, but what we're looking for is a more aggressive digital and marketing communications. I've had some pretty long talks with Sarah specifically about how we're going to execute that. But being just a little tighter in terms of our proactive community outreach, the annual, that's we've kind of settled into an annual calendar of events that we do year to year, and then there's maybe a new one here and there. But just being, like I said, a little more tighter and formal on that. And then our website administration, obviously, the administration, we have 2 digital billboards now, which it's great to have those 2 digital billboards, one in 127th and one over by Old Western. But those are their own maintenance. It's not just plug and play, send us your stuff, we get up there. There's very specific ways those things have to be formatted. You have to work with people, community groups, churches, etc. that you're trying to help out, but they're amateur graphic designer, etc. So it is a little bit of logistical work to make those happen. And then our graphic design on things, some of our newsletters, our website, related graphic images, our events, etc. So it's all kind of in there. Also, there's some grant writing that we do. And ComEd has a grant for we use for the light parade. There's some other proactive grants for community outreach things that we can and are looking forward to be doing. So it's all listed in there. It's for your consideration. It's open for discussion between now and we would bring it back to the next council meeting for an actual formal vote.
Questions on the table first?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I have my little marketing company, and I'm oddly concerned that their bid may be a little too low on the number of hours they're planning to spend on this. Certainly, we can start out there. I would like to see this be as effective as it could be. And so, if we find that these aren't enough, I'm going to guess they're not. We might want to think about a larger budget.
Okay, fair enough.
And this would just be marketing as pertains to the website, not necessarily the scope of all marketing effort, or would that be?
It would be our website, our social media pages. I tend to handle things like, if there's, statements and more formal communications from the city, I have a little bit of pride authorship on that, so I usually don't put that up, but, it would be primarily digital communications and then the graphic design work that goes with that and some video photography work as well.
Yeah, maybe I don't understand the scope of their, engagement here with the website. Would they be the conduit, the basic conduit through which all website updates occur?
The day-to-day,
Yes.
week-to-week maintenance, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
The front-facing stuff, which is, hey, we have we got these events coming up, we want to make sure that they're well advertised, and the community is well aware of that. But then there's also a lot of the, more logistical stuff. And we have other staff that work on this as well. Right now, Verada does a lot of this in terms of making sure that all of our information in terms of what the business that we're doing here, that's properly reflected on the website. A lot of our archiving, and we've talked about this before, our website is just kind of scatterbrained and messy right now. So a lot of this is just getting this into tighter baskets, basically, where the public is able to easily find this stuff. So yeah, it will be definitely the primary scope.
Yeah, and if it helps, I can speak to my experience in this. So with the old website, like any infrastructure, it requires maintenance. And I think in particular, when the city needs to rely on not only vendors, but multiple vendors for the maintenance of infrastructure, we have a part to play in that too. And so when we hunt or historically have deferred that maintenance, when you have other players involved, it just becomes a lot to do, right? It's something we're facing right now with water. That was the sort of situation with the old website. And so a lot of the focus here is in being clear about roles and responsibilities in the scope of effort. And that includes what the city sort of needs, what ducks it needs to have in a row so that we can make the best use of the professional services that we have. So this kind of fits into a better context, right, of how we're going to maintain this new infrastructure now that we have it, so it doesn't get out of line. And so, I think we're kind of feeling our way into that, but more process-based, and that'll help keep things from getting so snarled up to where we don't even know what to do with the thing other than put it out of its misery, like our own website. So, but this looks great, for my part.
So, again, I know this is mainly going over the website, but, I think we're also talking in the future about doing, an app or some kind of app connection to the website. That would also, need to be maintained and, broadcast out, certain items and, if we could maybe look at terminology here and include that within that in case we do decide to do that down the road.
And yes, absolutely. And the mobile functions of the new site will be vastly superior to what exists now.
Just real quick, how does this proposal differ from what they do now, I guess is my question. I'm just not familiar with what exactly they are doing for the city at this time.
How I best describe it, Alderman, is, right now, our relationship, which was really just kind of born out of what was inherited and what kind of grew from there, has been essentially reactive. When we need something and I don't have the staff or bandwidth to handle it, we've kind of, spent on things that they've come, and so they've been on a lower retainer. But what this seeks to do is formalize this, make it more proactive. So this is going to include things like weekly check-ins with Sarah and myself to say, where are we at this week? What are we doing? So more formal, more proactive, more active period, more content, more product, right? And it is a little bit more money, no doubt. But to Alderman Fairwell's point, I've done some marketing and communications contract work myself. This is pretty fair for the market of it. So I would charge you guys more. But yeah, it's a little bit broader. It's more, like I said, it's busier in terms of its activity, and it's more proactive and less reactive.
I could add to that. There were things, as I understood it, that just weren't worth the time to do with the old website because it was such a snarl mess. And so Browntown did not host or maintain the site. They would just go and do the updates as we tell them. So with the newer site, there's just a lot more that we can do, and so that we're planning to do, like how we communicate events, how we maintain the calendar, being able to feature photos from around town. So with that broader capability, there's just sort of bigger plans for what we do with it, if that makes sense. It's better, it's more worth our while.
Other questions? Discussion of sale of city property, there's one lot, right, one vacant lot. Right,
2133, 136.
just kind of by, drop the, one again,
I'm sorry,
2133, 136.
2133.
That's the one by the short road water thing.
Directly across the street from the water tank. There was last week, we've had a number of people express interest in purchasing that lot. Whether it's to expand their side yard or to build. Now it is, yes. Yeah, we own that outright. What's the other phone? 2133, 136th Street.
Directly across.
You may see a house on Google Maps, but if you drive past, it's a vacant lot.
Just like the bulk of the. Okay, I think I already talked enough tonight, but yes, just like my license, all you guys in January, it's, going into our second term. We have a lot of heavy lifts now for stuff underground. I think we don't starve, we're just gonna keep them out. So something I might have a lot of conversations with the attorney, you all, our engineer. We have, you can't start till you start. So the ongoing conversations with various different levels of water infrastructure. See, look,
Happy belated birthday to Alderman Carr and Rita. Let's save the date for April 26th for the community cleanup. Help us reach our goal. Sign up and let's tout last year's record. The sign up for the city flower event, TGIF, and the farmers market has begun. Our Black History Luncheon is February 24th at noon at the East Annex. Please call, just let me know and reserve your ticket. Happy Valentine's Day tomorrow, and the city will be closed on Monday, President's Day, and we open on Tuesday, February 18th.
thank you.
That's all I have.
City attorney,
No report.
city administration, review of the appropriation. We give you a review.
Okay, so we had actually hoped to have the first draft ready for the council to tonight. Unfortunately, it's just not quite there yet. We're getting close, as the mayor alluded to. We spent considerable time this week on it. We also have half of us have been out with the flu this week. It's been a pretty fun one. So, but we are getting close. So the plan is for by tomorrow, we are going to, because this is to meet a statutory requirement, there's going to be a draft copy of the appropriation available to the public in the clerk's office. We'll also, I'll print some draft copies for the council if you want me. If you happen to drop it off at your house, when I come by the office and view it. But the draft will be publicly available. That draft is subject to change. If you remember, we've done this in the past. But I just want to go through a couple of things to expect with this budget, or with this appropriation rather, because we've had a lot of transitional change over the past 4 years. So a couple of different things in this year's approach from the past couple of years is we're pretty much downrange now from some of the unique one-time sources like ARPA that did make up part of our appropriations. So that's the bad news. The good news is we did not utilize those one-time funds in any programmatic funding that would be annual year to year, right? So we didn't bake in one-time funding sources and the things that we were going to rely on year in and year out. And just Google that, and you can see a lot of other units of government did not do that and are paying a very significant price for that right now. So we're on stable ground.
That money, right?
Yeah, so we're on stable ground. We're going to be able to present a balanced appropriations that does address a lot of, begins this process of addressing a lot of the needs that we had kind of previously talked about. So some of the highlights of the appropriations that you're going to see are we are continuing the street and alley program at a pace that we can afford, but is also still going to be addressing the problems and getting streets done and finishing out the alleys that we started. Then there's also the maintenance elements of those that we need to begin the process of protecting the things we've already invested in. We are looking at, we have vehicles that we need, but we have made some very good progress in updating our police fleets. and updating, our public works and building departments fleets. So we've made very good progress, but again, we're gonna be kind of doing modest vehicle and equipment purchases as we can within budget, addressing our biggest needs first. And in terms of salaries and things like that, we're gonna be looking at, as we have in previous years, modest cost of living increases. So one of the things that you're going to see that really does relate to what Travis Perry talked about tonight and what the mayor has alluded to already, is some newer revenue sources here that are not going to be in place on the day that the appropriations passes, but that we obviously aren't going to spend unless they do pass. So the two big ones the kind of three big ones to consider, would be, the potential of bonding against, either water revenue or general obligation bonds, but with the purpose of the bonding to go strictly towards our infrastructure needs, the things Travis just talked about, basically. So it wouldn't be for any other department's cost or anything, it would be strictly bonding to address these very serious, water needs. As was already spoken about, myself and Mike Schroeder get reminded every quarter that, the EPA is very much breathing down our necks about this water tank issue. It should have been handled a long time ago, but we can't take, we don't have a time machine, so we're gonna do what we can moving forward. But this city is in, as the mayor talked about, it is in a good position to, because we're not strapped with a lot of, other excess debt. So if we're going to make these decisions, obviously, the council is going to be informed about a lot of this with a lot of numbers and terms and information before any of this stuff happens. But in order to spend said bond proceeds, should they come, we have to have it appropriated for. So you're gonna see some, what appear to be significant increases in revenues and expenditures in water specifically. That's the source of them, okay? Another one, as we talked about, the Illinois EPA, has these loans that are very likely to be forgiven based on our economic status. We're looking at somewhere in the area of $6 million for that, right, to cover the water tanks especially. I'm sorry, that's lead line, to cover lead line. In the bonding, we're looking at somewhere in the area of $10 million. The market will obviously bear that out. Out of that 10 million would be the first thing we would tackle would be the water tank treatment. So, and then we're going to be looking obviously for, I'll say state funding. Normally I would say state and federal funding, but the federal picture is a little murky right now. So, but there are still already state funds available that are either already through federal process or never were federal dollars to begin with. And we're going to be looking for obviously just capital infrastructure money outside to help beef that up. So, this will all kind of come into focus, and I'm going to be working obviously again with Alderman Roll to make some presentable pieces here that will help us all digest this. But there are going to be some areas, like I said, where these specific revenue streams are unique to this year. We have not seen these in previous years, so I think they're worthy of some explanation. So that's what I've got in terms of an appropriations update. Like I said, by end of the day tomorrow, there will be a first draft available for view, and then you'll have the plan is to pass this on February 25th, so there should be about 2 weeks to review, go through line items. If you have any individual questions, myself, Mark, our current Lauren Fulgrant, or department heads can be made available to you. So that's all I have on appropriations. Questions on that? The only other thing I have from an administrator report is we are considering, no decision has been made, but we are considering our Saturday schedule that relates to the clerk's office. We had some initial public interest when we first did this. It has dropped off. It does lead to staff overhead. It's only 4 hours, nothing more, but to pay an employee to sit there for 4 hours and one person maybe doesn't come in. I mean, we have had, I think the clerk can speak to this, but better than I can. We have had hours long stretches where we kind of pay employees just to keep the lights on. And so if the public's not going to respond to it, we can always bring it back. If there's some future demand for it, we could bring it back maybe temporarily in June just for city stickers, which we have done traditionally anyway, stay open longer into weekends for city stickers. But in November, December, January, we're just not having people coming on Saturday, so it's proved kind of be not worth a while right now. So that's where we're at with that. Again, no final decisions have been made, so if you have other thoughts on it, that's all I've got. That's those questions from me. Thank you.
Any questions? We do have a short.
I just had a couple of things I wanted to just have put out there for future consideration. One is with snow coming. I've had a couple of residents ask me about, one sent me a video of the neighbor blowing snow from storm property on her car. And somebody else with similar issues. I looked, it doesn't seem that we have an ordinance, it seems like basically you ought to keep your snow on your property or maybe on the parkway. I don't know if we have an ordinance to that effect. It might be helpful that cities have, I don't know how much we could force it.
No.
Pardon?
It's about snow.
Huh?
About blowing snow.
Blowing snow on your property, just
We'll
that.
try it tomorrow.
Although if not, we'll see if any neighboring. Or in the street too as well.
Or in the street, yes, it shouldn't go in the public way, or, I
That's
mean, one of the park you have. Yes,
I think we might have to look into it.
so if we could show that, that'd be great. Also, I just, speaking of, Tom's mentioned about the clerk's office, I've had some comments about our senior water rate renewal, process. Certainly for some seniors, it's difficult to come into City Hall. I wonder if we might look if there's a way to maybe do this by phone rather than have people come in. Seem a bit every year, I don't know, maybe there's, a way to verify that they are a resident or something, but, I'd like it if we could look at that, see if there's a more convenient. Pardon?
The seniors,
Senior water rate. Oh, I have to, you have to come
every
in.
year.
Yeah,
I think the reason why I think correct if I'm wrong, but I think it's because there was no, people were getting.
oh, no, I understand, we need to have it verified, I don't question that, I just wonder if we need them to actually come in person, is it possible to, by mail or by phone or something, I'm not
Or
sure.
on the website.
Yeah, but I don't.
Maybe it's that too.
Yeah.
I don't see an issue with that. The only concern I would have is if the senior does not have access to a copy machine to show proof of ID.
Yeah,
I mean, if they can submit a copy of their ID, I don't see an issue with them submitting.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of
Especially-
people always
especially with
email
renewals,
their,
yeah.
tax
Let's
license.
put some thought into it. It's a good idea. Let's
Yeah.
put some thought into
yeah,
it.
okay, that'd be great, yeah.
Any other Alderman? Any concerns, questions? Now, we have a brief executive. Yeah.
I wanted to say, quickly that, thank you to Public Works, Mike and your whole department did a fabulous job, and, great job, thank you.
Yeah.
I know you guys were up around the clock, so.
Do a brief executive, motion to, for an executive. Open roll, second Alderman Ruthenberg, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Again, very brief. Motion to resume regular session, Alderman Fairwell, second Alderman Roll, discuss, I guess workman's comp. Just say that. All right, nothing else, we have a motion to adjourn. Alderman Fairwell, second by Alderman Roll, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.